What's up, ladies and gentlemen? You're very welcome along to this special video. I'm joined by Graham Hunter to give us a Spanish perspective on what's going on with this European Super League, or the Super League as it was called. And Graham, I suppose the first place I'd like to start is with Florentino Perez and his involvement.
Well, what's the question then? Because clearly he was involved.
Do you believe that he was the architect, or do you believe that it was himself along with the three UK-based American owners?
The architect. Maybe the best way I can answer that is by talking about Florentino Perez. As well as being a billionaire businessman outside his stewardship of Real Madrid, he is a diehard Madrid fan, which is something that might sound obvious, but it's not the case of those who own Chelsea or Manchester United or Liverpool or Arsenal. It is the case at Atleti. It is the case at Barcelona. It is the case of Agnelli. Clearly, it's not the case at Inter. And for Florentino, he's in a very mixed bunch. Unlike FSG, he's not an owner. He acts like one. And while he's been president, he's changed the statutes of the club such that his position is almost untouchable. Hence, the last couple of times he's been, including this week, he's been re-elected as president unopposed. But outside the club stewardship and the billionaire construction business that he's put together over the years, he's a guy with a very firm eye on history. I pointed out that he's a diehard Madrid fan because, given his age, he grew up watching a team that was constructed by maybe not everybody that subscribes to Anfield Agenda will know that the name of the stadium, Santiago Bernabeu at Real Madrid, which is going to be the #1 football stadium in the world when it's reopened after the works that they're doing on it, which frankly are astounding. Santiago Bernabeu was the president, and until now, certainly the most legendary, the most successful president in history. And not only did he have that team that won 5 straight Champions Leagues, European Cups in the day, he was very much one of the originators of the European Cup. I know you know that, but not everybody. Eras change. People at different ages don't know this history. Florentino Perez grew up watching that team of Gento and Amancio and Puskás and Di Stefano and so on and so forth. And Florentino wants to be recorded as the #1 president in the history of Real Madrid. And if you are that #1 president in the history of Real Madrid, Craig, you may be one of the #1 president of any football club of all time. And therefore, you can see where I've come to. The idea of starting a new European competition, which Real Madrid dominate and where they earn hundreds of millions more, it has very much been part of Florentino Perez's life dream, not just a business dream. And maybe I'll close the answer by saying this is now, those things I've given you are fact. My impression is that the complete and utter pig's breakfast they made of this, which was a beautiful way for them to remind any of us who grew up watching Laurel and Hardy or the Keystone Cops or the Three Stooges. It was nice of them to make us laugh a little in these tough times. One of the reasons I think that it went off completely half-cocked was that Florentino was the coach master to hurry, hurry, hurry. And when he found out that Bayern Munich were still completely manacled to UEFA and the Champions League, albeit they want to use their status of having been an opposer of the European League, they want to use that UEFA now to get more power and influence and more of their say. So I won't just paint them as the cowboys in the white hats just yet. But what Florentino Perez was rushing it through, particularly once that he found that the European Clubs Association were not now unanimous, that PSG and Bayern were wanting out. The amount of money involved in this, the amount of money which could be either generated quickly or loans that could be taken against the announcement of the participation in the European Super League, that was going to generate cash in Florentino's mind, Craig, to buy both Mbappe and Haaland. Now, I don't think he's going to get both of them, particularly now, but that is his objective. And clearly, there's a queue so long for Haaland, particularly. you would say your club is probably involved in that queue. Certainly, John Laporta at Barcelona is obsessed by Haaland. There has been talk about him being reunited with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Of course, they work together. I think at Mulder, I'm pretty sure. Chelsea would be in the running. Bayern Munich would be in the running. So it's not that Holland is short of suitors, but Madrid wanted to say, listen, it's going to be a super team built around Mbappe and Haaland up front. You play that news to each of them. They're tempted. You give them ridiculous salaries. You have the money to try and liberate them from PSG and Dortmund in the same summer. That's been an element in what's been going on.
There's certainly no doubt in my mind that this isn't the end. I think that we've seen the restructured Champions League. We've seen that the big clubs have pushed UEFA for more money, for legacy payments, for other stuff like that. Do you think that this was a game of brinksmanship that dramatically backfired? Do you think that these clubs overread their hand, or do you think this is a means to an end?
Well, those are two different things. Brinksmanship, no. This wasn't brinksmanship. They tied themselves into a situation where they genuinely believed that they had the power, that they had the persuasiveness, that they had the funds to make this a reality. Brinksmanship would be playing out a provable threat to the point that you don't exercise the threat and you get what you want. Now, certainly, I mean, your argument could be that some of the clubs didn't seem convinced for all that long, which again added to my hilarity. But I think what they genuinely all believed was that given that they want different kinds of European matches, not many of the clubs who ratted out are that keen to be going and playing ties in Czech Republic or in Russia. They might have a moan about the occasional game in Slovakia or Romania. Heavens above, they may not even be that chuffed when the champions of Scotland the season after this go straight into the group stages. And they also wanted, quite simply, as everybody knows, more money. So they fund, even though UEFA has announced a revamped Champions League, which is a really different feel to it, more money involved. To my taste, well, it is not to my taste at all. But look how much attention these clubs who ratted out paid to that, Craig. They didn't. There wasn't brinksmanship in terms of, okay, we've pushed you into a situation where we get more games. Two of the highest ranked clubs get invitations into the Champions League. So that's what's coming in 24-25, which to me is just wrong. If there were brinksmanship involved, then these clubs wouldn't have made complete arses of themselves, which they've done. So I understand your point about were they just wielding a big stick? And you've made the point that this isn't the end, that there'll be more. But they hurried. You know, given the amount of power involved in this breakaway, given the amount of wealth involved, had they briefed their players, their managers, had they done a real blitzkrieg offensive to make sure that by the time it came out, they had big voices speaking out for them? Had they timed it such that they weren't shitting on everybody who's put their lives at stake during the COVID era and, you know, said to everybody, listen, you know, you've been busting your bollocks for the last 9, 10, 12 months to make sure that football can go ahead despite COVID. But now we really don't care if we get kicked out of La Liga or Serie A or the Premier League. You know, they announced it at a ridiculous time, which I thought really spoke ill of their respect for the people who have been mounting this spectacle during this horrendous time for the world. They launched this at a time when the league titles that their players have been fighting for. And you might not speak to Liverpool players, but you know that just like everybody else, knackered mentally, physically, in terms of emotional tiredness. Some of those superstars at these clubs that ratted out have had loved ones either die or be ill. And suddenly what they're greeted with is their owners saying, see that league you've been playing for? We don't really. What kind of impact was that ever going to have? Like, in all honesty, thank goodness for Milner, for Henderson, and Bamford. And to an extent, I wasn't as agitated about what Klopp said on television about Gary Neville or how some people feel he missed an opportunity. Managers in the red zone, after a match where they've been greeted by Leeds players and fans who were calling the players and the manager villains when they didn't even know about it, and managers in the red zone immediately after a game where you've drawn instead of winning and the Champions League qualification may have drifted away, they are hot. They're hot to trot. They're ready to come out swinging. So I completely absolve Klopp for any tone that he took there. But if you think about how all the players across Europe, and you asked me about the Spain thing, imagine how the Barcelona, Atleti, and Real Madrid players who knew nothing about this felt with their owners saying, "We're doing this anyway. We're doing it." Now, had they tried to convert people, had they at least had the decency to inform people, they should have been powerful enough to be shooting fish in a barrel. It should have been that simple. Launched immediately at the league's end, and the Champions League is finished before the Euros start, and instead they've shot their own foot off. And would you have trusted them to run a piss up in a brewery, never mind a league? I ask you, could they? Could you? Do you think they could? I think they've forgotten to tell the referee to turn up and who's brought the footballs and what do you mean we've got no nets for the goals? Amateur footballs all around England and Ireland will be recognised in this game. Muppets.
Yeah, if you even look at the website that was hastily thrown together, it looks like a transition year student's attempt to do something for college. Or this Anfield Agenda show has been brought to you by Manscaped, who is the best in men's below the waist grooming. When you're a follically challenged man like myself on the top of the head, you want to make sure that you take care of yourself below. If you haven't tried their Lawnmower 3.0 electric trimmer, you've been missing out. Their third generation trimmer features a cutting edge ceramic blade to keep your nuts as smooth as my head. The battery alone lasts up to 90 minutes, unlike most of us. The kit also includes crop preserver, otherwise known as their ball deodorant. Yes folks, I did say ball deodorant. It also comes with crop reviver, Manscaped's own ball toner. Sick of saggy balls? Use their ball toner and those days will be gone. They even added their shed travel bag and anti-chafing boxer briefs to complement not only their Perfect Package 3.0, but your perfect package as well. Let's get that bush to tush clean so you can be prepared at all times. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code WFM20 at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com. Use our code WFM20. You too can be massive and your balls will thank you later. Do you know, Graham, before I let you go, what gets me on this is, if I look at the Stan Kroenkes, the John W. Henrys, the Glazers, I can see a cultural difference. I can see that they're used to American sport model where there's no relegation, there's no promotion, teams can be picked up and move wherever they want. They can go and get tax breaks in another city, and they've got a lot more power. They're usually American sports. But can you explain to my audience, I understand the way Spanish football clubs work, but how the socios of Barcelona would have the say, and how Juan Laporta, if I'm right, and I could be incorrect on this, was sold down the river by a previous president who'd agreed and signed up to this.
You're right to mention socios. At Atleti, it's not the case. That's an owned club. But they've got fans who are virulently noisy and passionate and new. Might be compared well to the way that Liverpool fans feel about their club. And irrespective of the fact that the fans at Atleti couldn't have voted this out, the noise they would have made about it would have been deafening. And had this thing not collapsed anywhere, Atleti would have been forced out. Even when they announced they were coming in, Craig, they said, "Oh, well, we were told that a third Spanish club behind the big two had to come in." And we thought if it wasn't us, it'd be somebody else, so we better take it. Now, there's a convincing rhetoric. At Real Madrid, I've already explained that although it's a member-owned club, the statutes have been changed so drastically that Florentino Perez currently might as well be an owner. But you pinpointed Barcelona. There's just been an election. They've just chased out a wastrel president. The only thing I would correct is that Laporta does not get out of this with a clean bill of health. You are right. Josep Maria Bartomeu, the previous president, who's completely discredited and really did get chased out of office, is the one who began this. On his last day, he said, "Oh, I'm quitting. And by the way, we've signed up for the European Super League." I know that for months, this has been showing on projected income for Barcelona in the next fiscal year So they were well down the line. And it is true that while he was campaigning to be president, Joan Laporta said, I'm against the European Super League. But he added, it would take a lot of persuading. It was mealy mouth, weasel words, where it sounded like he was saying it won't happen under my watch. But what he was saying was, oh, well, now I am in and I've found the level of debt. Yeah, well, I'm afraid we're going to go ahead. And as we speak, I don't know by the time this goes out, as we speak, Barcelona haven't withdrawn. There are two clubs left, Madrid and Barcelona. What is that? European Super League of Clásicos every week? I don't think so. So Joan Laporta, having seen the debt that he's inherited, having wanted to fight for Haaland and bring him to persuade Messi, needing to offer a gigantic contract to persuade Messi to stay, although he was handed this poison chalice by Bartomeu, you're right. No way does he get off the hook for not having walked away, even though he said, of course, our participation is dependent on the socios voting for this. Well, all right, stay out until the socios vote. Catalan man spoke with forked tongue, is as simply as I could put it, Craig.
The thing that disgusted me real quick, Graham, was that, you look at historic clubs, you look at Benfica, Ajax, you look at Aberdeen in the sake of Scotland, you look at Celtic. So many clubs that seem to have been just glossed over here. And they speak about wanting to maintain the football financial landscape, make it sustainable. They'd announced that a women's competition was going to run alongside it. To me, this, as you said, it seems like just they couldn't organise a piss up in a brewery, and they did have the power, as you rightly said, and that's what I'm worried about. I just don't think this is the end.
No, it most certainly isn't, because the new Champions League from 24-25, Seferin, the boss of UEFA, who I think has done well in this crisis at least, and we won't go into it at length, but I'm also, a really serious fan of the Champions League and its structure. It is imperfect. It is undoubtedly the case that we could be seeing not more access from the big countries, but more direct access from some of the historical countries who are in financial decline. But the competition itself has provided us with stories, a change in the way football is played, and some of the greatest matches, not just finals, that we've ever seen in the history of this, the greatest sport that's ever been invented. So irrespective of that not needing wholesale change, it's coming. What I believe UEFA will have seen is the way in which JP Morgan was willing to venture capital a huge amount of extra money. I think UEFA will look for their own venture capital fund to say, okay, well, instead of what you earn or win or are gifted from the Champions League coming from marketing and broadcasting and gate receipts, we will augment prize funds and the loyalty bonuses by nicking the idea that the Super League had. I think that's likely to be under discussion soon. Whether it comes across or not, that's for the weeks and months ahead to prove. But Paris Saint-Germain and Bayern Munich, who stayed out and who vocally tied themselves to the Champions League, will have a much bigger voice shouting in Schefferin's ear. And even though there are talks now about whether the clubs, particularly those two clubs who are left in it, should be financially penalised, I think there'll be a debate at the end of this week in UEFA's headquarters about whether Real Madrid should be permitted to play in the semi-finals next week. I think they will be. Even though there's a lot of fallout to come, the owners who have seen where they went wrong will undoubtedly not have given up on the basic idea that drove them. So when you said, this isn't over, there's more to come, I think never a truer word.
I always appreciate you giving me a few minutes of your time, Mr. Hunter. It's a pleasure, and it's great to get an insight as well from a different league and a different perspective. And nobody knows the Spanish game better than yourself in my eyes, mate. So thank you for giving up some of your evening. I really appreciate it. I know you're a very busy man. And anyone who hasn't listened to the big interview with Graham Hunter, make sure you get yourselves across Acast, Spotify, iTunes, everywhere you get your podcasts. The big man, Mr. GH. Always a pleasure, sir.
Good luck to Anfield, Jenna. Thanks very much indeed, and enjoy your football.
Thank you, Graham. Same to you.